Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Gemma! Yay! And this is episode 254 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. And this episode, I can tell you, is called Refreshing. Because when I was working on all these show notes, I felt like, wow, I'm so refreshed. Now I feel like warmed over dead. But that is, of course, what you get on a Thursday night in my job. So there in the show notes, you can see a picture of me with my little Halloween hairband. And I've been wearing that this week. And I will tell you where that comes from. That's kind of Minerva getting the first word as well as the last word. You can also see that I'm wearing a really pretty jacket, and I will tell you where that comes from, as well as my mask. I believe I'm in a place, what is it called? Plum Cafe on West Magnolia in Burbank, and thereby hangs a tail. But below that is the last picture of the birthday pavilion. It's having its last hooray in this gorgeous, gorgeous sunset because the beloved took it down. So that's okay. The windstorms are getting bad up here. So we have to protect it. But we now have learned a trick. We have these beautiful indoor-outdoor rugs and this beautiful tent. So I think we're going to have a lot more birthday pavilion in our last few years in this farm. In the meantime, your comments are very, very welcome. Please feel free to comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can go to our group on Ravelry. You can also buy Dr. Gemma a coffee. I think I got one this morning. I wasn't fully awake because I kind of reacted with, that's really generous. I mean, it's scaring me how generous that is. And I think I'm going to wait till after CFR to talk about that because my brain's too fried right now. But whoever that was, good Lord, thank you. I'm not sure why I'm worthy, but thank you. In the meantime, I know that's the warmest thanks, believe me, and I'm sorry because I can't find the website. To be honest, I'm sort of combing through my emails and I have to record tonight, and that's why I'm not doing this the way I should do it. And I don't want to just jam in an extra thing that I record later. I want to really take the time to thank you. Other warm thanks, Chris for pointing out that her dieting guru we were discussing in the last episode, he beat diabetes by using his system. That's a really good thing to know. I got to give him a serious amount of respect because I beat diabetes using the keto system. And it isn't an easy thing to do. And I was reflecting on that. And so, of course, I sat down and said, well, I mentioned this the last episode, but I want to go back and look at that. So I went into MyFitnessPal and I programmed it for what do you get if you put in 20 grams of carb? What do you get in calories? You get 830 calories. So, Chris makes the point. This guy beat diabetes for a reason. And I would say, yeah, my only disagreement is he's using calories instead of carbs. That's not what I'd call a major disagreement. I'm just saying that I did it a little differently than him. But it's pretty obvious that his limit on calories is pretty much my limit on carbs that I got from the lovely people who run the doctors, as medical doctors, who run a group on Facebook called Keto Down Under. It's a bunch of Australian doctors who have been behind low carb for a long time. And I have to say, to give Chris's guru, I think his name is Mosley, to give him his due, first of all, he beat diabetes. That's a lot in my world. But also, in fairness to him, if you want to adopt a system of managing your intake for the rest of your life, it is going to be easier to track yourself with all of the applications I've found on the market by using calories. I can see a reason for using calories. I was talked out of it by the medical doctors from Low Carb Down Under. But I think if you're limiting yourself to 800 calories a day, you have to be limiting carbs. I mean, I can't imagine how you wouldn't be. I can't imagine any carbohydrate-laden food I could eat in the amount I would like to eat it and stay under 830 calories. I mean, it is effectively 20 carbs. So that works great for me. Chris describes using a slightly less intense version of the diet than I would use. And as I said before, Chris ain't got diabetes. But that doesn't mean that Mosley doesn't have it or hasn't had it. And, I take him very seriously. Yeah, okay, so, good on him, because fighting diabetes off, and I don't mean beating pre-diabetes. I went low carb because I had full-blown diabetes. And, yeah, fighting it off is a heck of a battle. In my camp, I have a carbohydrate addiction. And that is why I'm always going to look at limiting carbs, grams of carb, as opposed to limiting calories. Because, yeah, I technically could eat carb in a restrictive way on a calorie diet, but it's always going to be about me holding back on the carbs, because that is an addiction I must fight actively every single day. Okay, so thanks, Chris. It's a good resource, and right now this is not the time for me to sit down and read it, but I actually plan to. Meanwhile, I also want to thank Jasmine Nitmore, who was listening to one of my earlier episodes and said, what about the sports bras by SheFit? And I put the link in the show notes. Yes, SheFit has blown across my social media a few times. Why have I not used it? I have enough jog bras, but it looks like good stuff. What I really like about SheFit was they have everyday bras that are kind of longer fit bras, like a good sports bra. In other words, I really like that SheFit has bras for women with more full figures, going from an everyday look up through high impact. So yeah, it's definitely worth having a look at SheFit. I basically am using bras I bought years ago at Old Navy, that they went through a phase of having excellent sports bras. Unfortunately, for my build, they no longer do. I'm sure they still have some if I was more flat-chested. Right now, I've been wearing the Fabletics bras, which I think are very similar to the SheFit versions, and I like them a great deal. They are not quite as firm as the other bras, but again, this is about fit. That's my only hang up with SheFit, is I was able to try on the Fabletics bras. As far as I know, I wouldn't have a store I could go to try on the SheFit. However, they probably have a superb return policy, because you have to do that. If you're going to sell people sports bras, you have to give them the option to return it if it doesn't fit you. Okay, meanwhile, I also want to really thank the people joining us at CFR, because what you cannot see is I am frantically excited about CFR. I have 2 spinning wheels, and the pictures are at the bottom of the show notes here. I have a Schacht and I have an Ashford, and I have a ton of bobbins. I have not had a chance to go through the bobbins and fit them to the wheels. That's okay. I believe I have at least 3 bobbins per wheel. I may have more. I may have woolly winders on some of them. I'm not even sure anymore because I haven't used them in a while. But I'm bringing it all with me. And, I'm selling these guys for $300 a wheel. I'm not going for the full price. I would like to move these. I haven't even looked to see how close they are to spin. They're not broken, but they may not be wearing a drive band. So, things to know. How do I get a drive band, Gemma? Go to the hardware store and pick up some string? It's not hard to do. Okay, meanwhile, also thanks to my community on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in the Santa Clarita and AV, and both valleys that is, and of course in this group of listeners. Thank you, folks. I really appreciate your being here. You can see a picture, by the way, in Finch. They are running this thing, Mystery Manor. It's a special thing for 15 days for Halloween. There are my 2 burbs. They are gothed out, so they are kind of whited out and have dark hair, and they are dressed very similarly in that one. I think one of them has gone over to a different Mystery Manor gown, But anyway, there they are together outside the Mystery Manor, having the good time that only two animated birds can have together. CFR 11. Well, you will notice that I released something, I think 2 days ago or yesterday. Time's running together in my head. I released a quickie thing about it. And there's also the information thread. Here's kind of what I think you need to know quickly in summary. Drew Caitlin, no homework for the embroidery blackwork class. She is bringing appropriate needles and fabric, Aida cloth, that is even weave fabric. And so you don't have to bring anything. She's bringing the stuff. And again, Caitlin, let me know about costs. If I can refund it, I certainly will. Meanwhile, our own Lefty Rebel knitter is offering a class on Russian graft, and she's got homework. You can see it over on the information thread. It's somewhere around number 20. It is easy. If you have ever done the toe of a sock, that's really what she's asking you to do. She's asking you just to do a few rows, I think just side to side. I don't think she's even saying in the round. And then she'll show you how to do Russian join. Go look at her homework. She likes it much better than Kishner for sock toes. And the homework there should not, I would imagine that's half an hour at the most. Loretta 1031 left her message about donations for her crocheting club. I believe she said light colored yarns, cotton or acrylic. And I think she's looking for worsted weight, size 4. Because this is for her school kids, and that means the hooks are going to be hooks you would use with a size 4 yarn. So to me, that's anywhere, I think she wanted H, I, and J, something like that. Okay, go look in the information thread. The link is right there in the show notes. Meanwhile, I went over to Michael's and I did find the stuff there that they have in short. They do not have rolls of fabric for anything. They have embroidery kits. I did not see even weave fabric. It may be there. I may have just missed it. They do have a lot of floss, the side of the aisle closest to the front door, but it's towards the back. And they have a good selection of needles. You need blunt-tipped needles and floss whatever color you want. Usually blackwork's done in black. And if you keep scrolling down in the show notes at this point, you'll see some lovely signs from where I was on Saturday. And I really like them. These are both in front of a store called Mindful Nest on West Magnolia in Burbank, and I will come back to that in the blather. So what's on my hooks and needles? Well, I did not finish anything, but I did move yarn a lot. I really did a very major stash toss. I did not get to all the bins, which is terrifying, because I pulled out 76 skeins and bits and bobs. And what really horrified me was some of them were so old I did not even find them in my Ravelry stash. But the total now is 77 skeins in this year, 117 skeins out. And those 117, a lot of them, 76 of them at least, give or take 5, I would think. Sometimes I had so many in this one box I didn't count them, but it was easily 20. At any rate, those are all going to be donations. And the really nice thing is, what this means for you all, is if you're at CFR and you want to work on the group pattern, which is going to be a chicken, plenty of yarn to do it with. If you want to crochet it, I'm also bringing a pile of extra hooks. So please feel free. You don't even have to bring yarn. If you just want to work on that project while we're there, or any of the other free projects that we've had in years past, you can do it right there and then. Okay? Having said that, in the other things in my world, I've been working a little bit on the Fiery Scallops shawl. I've been working on the arm of the September sweater, which is taking, I don't know, the rest of my life. It's been unbelievable. And also the Ragdoll Revitalization. I'm still wondering in the notes, I'm still saying, she is so clean. Now, I was worried about how to manage her hair. And, in the end, I realized I didn't want to put it in rubber bands because that's 40-year-old acrylic yarn. So what I did was actually looked at my Woobles yarn. That's called Easy Peasy yarn. It's a tubular yarn. They treat it as though it's a size 3. You crochet it with a G hook. but I think of it as a size 4 yarn. But I looked at it and said, this is a really good consistency to use in place of the rubber bands on Laura Jane the Ragdoll's hair. Interesting thing, when I sorted her hair and I finger combed it, her bangs, which were always all over the place, they laid down very nicely. And I need to trim the bottom ends. I haven't trimmed that yet, and there's just a little bit of raggediness there. Of course, she is a ragdoll. But I just took those bows and I went twice around each hank of hair and tied it very tightly. Put granny knots in, and then I tied loops on it and double tied the loops. So she's looking really good. What's left on her? Arguably, I'm thinking about it, I could take a few stitches with a complementary thread, sewing thread, to tack down her hair on, as you face her, the right side. On her head, it would be on the left, but as you face her, it's on your right. But I have to admit, the Ragdoll revitalization is pretty much finished. And the only question I have is it worth it for me to trace her pattern and try to remake her as a craft skill? And I want to spend some time researching Ragdoll patterns online before I do that. I don't want to reinvent this wheel, but she is a fantastic pattern. If I thought we were going to have another CFR next year, and that is not outside the realm of the possible, I would consider teaching a class on her, because she's actually a very easy make. All of her, including her clothes, her hair, everything. And that might be a really fun souvenir project from a weekend like CFR. Meanwhile, I haven't done anything on the quilt squares this week. Now, one of the things I did do, I got excited about the black work pattern. And so I think I talk about this over on the information thread for CFR in my post. What I did was I got a black t-shirt and I put my hoop on it on a flat surface, and I traced the hoop with a Taylor's chalk pencil. And then I took a multicolored floss, 2 strands, and I did a running stitch. Actually, it's not a running stitch. What is it? It's a split stitch. I did all the way around that circle, so you now can't see the chalk. And the chalk will just dust off. What I want to do in the middle of that is I want to put black work stitches, but I'm probably going to do it in the multicolored floss. To do that, I do have some cloth, Aida cloth. It's hard to explain this. This is not true Aida. This is, if you're in the right store, you can find a cloth that is even weave that you can tack onto any type of cloth and use it to make cross stitch. So, or in this case, black work. So I am thinking seriously, I don't know if I'll have the time to do it. I found some of that transfer fabric in my stash. I was really surprised I had any. And if it is a big enough size, I am going to lay it down on the t-shirt inside that circle, or around that circle, and I will try to do black work across that circle. So we will see how that goes. That is probably for a future day, because I know it's now Thursday night, October 9th, as I record this. This time tomorrow night, I will be at CFR 11. So I don't think I can get that done in time, because I have a few other projects, including this podcast, that I would like to get out before that happens. But anyway, we will see. So that is one more project that is not showing up among my unfinished projects. No spinning this week. Live with it. So what is the strategy? Well, this week has been about upcycling. And I owe this one to Genevieve Knitmore and Gigi, still sending you love. Jasmine, sending you love. But this one goes to Genevieve. When last I spoke to Jasmine, Jasmine said Genevieve Knitmore is really into upcycling. And she's working on a t-shirt quilt, I think. And this made me so incredibly happy. I think this is the way you got to go. And so I've been thinking about that. And of course, one of the things I did this week, it is starting to cool down. It is still hot in the late afternoon here. But it is a time of year where I go through my t-shirts. And the ones that I think have been loved enough, I cut them into halves, up the side seams and across the top of the shoulders. And I put at least the front half, actually these days I put both halves, into my t-shirt recycling bin. I believe it's going to take something like 64 t-shirts to make a queen size quilt, like I would like to. This is a very long-term project. 64 shirts is a lot of shirts, so I am simply saving them. And I have been working my way around my studio/study, trying to find the things I wanted for CFR, the yarn I wanted to donate. And strangely, that started in our big bedroom. I went through the bins there, and I was shocked how much I could donate. I could still donate a lot more, but enough is enough. And I realized this is great because this means we all have yarn to use for the classes on Saturday. So this is really great. Bring your own needles, bring a lot of hooks, I'm just saying. Okay, and I realized that yes, I'm upcycling this yarn. It's going to go to students or it's going to go to my buddies at CFR. A lot of really eclectic, cool, pretty stuff. So this is very exciting. And I started working my way into my study. And I managed to empty, I think, 2 full bins. And I'm very pleased about that. Now, I should say, I was just compressing things. That I got rid of a lot of skeins. I mean, 76 skeins is one bin. But the other bin was, I realized I had worked my way, I've been knitting my way through my stash. And I really needed to compress now some yarns into the same bins. I needed to free up a bin. So I freed up 2 bins. The amount of room that is given me in my study is astonishing. And so, of course, I started cleaning up all the bits and bobs and leftover bits of yarn that I had just allowed to get scattered around my study in various little boxes and bins. As a result, my desk is really cleaned up and organized because I also freed up some baskets and boxes, that is rigid fabric covered boxes that I got at Joann's, and they are now on the desk organizing things. Yes, there are still things to throw out or to frame or to hang up or dispose of, but it really is pretty impressive. And I cleaned out a huge amount of the floor that Minerva has been just sprawled out on all the open floor. I pulled out the Roomba and vacuumed it hard. I was sneezing all week. And tonight I sit here and the floor is clear. I can walk really easily. I can turn the captain's chair really easily. It is amazingly improved in here. The other great thing it did was it taught me that I still do need to knit and crochet my way and craft my way out of this mess. That I wanted to have all my stuff stored in the closet, the walk-in closet in the big bedroom, in the master bedroom. Instead, I moved a lot of it here so it would be at hand and I would just go to work on it. And that's really been great. Okay, so the thing though is that means I keep cluttering up my study instead of cluttering up my walk-in closet. I'm actually okay with that. In fact, I'm really, really happy with it. I have a great yarn supply and I'm working my way through things. I added a bunch of new projects to my group on my Ravelry projects page. No, I haven't started them. I'm just adding them there because I was finding patterns in my queue that I wanted to work on and identifying yarns as I went through this stash toss. So it was really pretty cool. And what happened then was I just realized upcycling is great. That in our current economy where people can't afford to buy things, donating, gifting, circulating among your hobby group, all of these things are really great strategies. Did I throw anything out? Not very much. I emptied 1 waste paper basket. I think I've done about 1 full waste paper basket of throwing out. And it really was papers, wrappers, yarn labels, things that I can't find a way to upcycle. But I have to tell you, I wish I had done this for every CFR. I did it for 1 or 2 of them. But I desperately wish I had done this last year and the year before with CFRs 9 and 10. Because the way everything feels right now is so happy. My mood is so much better. And it really surprised me. It kept everything in chaos until this morning. But it is shocking how much better I feel. So upcycle to refresh everything. All your clothes, everything. And all of this came out of what I did on the weekend. You'll hear that in the blather. Oh, shoot. I am running again. I did 2.5 miles today very easily. I am prepping for the Jeepers Creepers. That is the weekend after CFR, I believe the 19th. I believe it's a Sunday morning. And I have to move on to that. I want to wear a costume to that. I'm not sure where my costume bits and pieces are. But Jeepers Creepers is coming. And I've been enjoying just long, easy loping runs around the mountainsides. And it's really amazing. Because I'm working hard on my diet and my carbs, I am loaded with energy in the morning. And it is great because somewhere late in the run, ketosis gets serious about burning fat. And I break into this raging sweat. And it is not a hot flash because hot flashes don't feel good. This feels purifying. So that feels really good. How's the weight going? Haven't checked. Not particularly going. I lost 5 pounds and I'm sort of stalled there. But I'm actually just really happy right now. Everything is going beautifully. I can tell my sugar is low. I don't have any of the symptoms that I would get when my sugar is high. It feels wonderful. Meanwhile, I continue to look for a jingle jog. In the Fluffy Books, I finished A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. I just really like her work. She's a beautiful stylist, and the books are very sweet and very loving. They're cozy in all the right sense. They don't ever have any huge tension. Well, they actually do. I mean, there's one kind of hairy chapter where they take this enormous risk, but it works out really, really well. Currently, I am listening to A Sorcerer Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, another great book by T. Kingfisher. I've read a few of hers. One of them is, I think, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, which was the first one. It's wonderful. And I think if the other one was Nettle and Bone. She's really brilliant. She's really brilliant. She has a fantastic style. She often will access less famous fairy tales. And she also can be very creepy and very suspenseful. Should you read this one at night? Not so much, but I mean, my problem with it was I couldn't go to sleep at night because I couldn't stop listening. I'm almost to the end of it. And I am looking at, another Molly Harper book because they're so inane, but they're satisfying. And I will, a bad witch to hex around with, anyway, or the wrong witch to hex around with, you'll see it next week. But high recommendations I give to A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping and A Sorcerer Comes to Call. Fantastic books. Something I really like, upcycling, of course, I just said that. And in that section, you will see me in an upcycled bomber jacket. Oh, this thing is great. This was from Chance Vintage on West Magnolia in Burbank. Chance Vintage is at Hollywood and West Magnolia, Hollywood Magnolia. And I can't recommend it enough. They do a huge amount of upcycling. They get old denims. And a lot of their store fittings are from upcycled clothing that they gathered and could not resell. They had 2 giant racks of bomber jackets with leather sleeves. You can see me, I'm wearing one of them. You can't see the collar because my mask is covering it. Leather sleeves, and the front and back panels of the body were very heavy hunter's flannel, very thick weave, heavy flannel. Inside it is lined with the inside of a large men's coat, a suit coat. So it is a silk polyester or a good imitation of that. So this thing is incredibly warm. It looks like it has buttons. Those are actually snaps under the buttons. It is so cute. It has the trim that baseball jackets tend to have, or that bomber jackets tend to have, around the neck and cuffs and the waistline. This thing is so darn cute. $40. Believe me, great deal. Sizes are a bit eclectic because these are made up from pieces of other things. So, it's interesting because I tried on 3 larges and I bought the one that fit me. It fits me like a glove. I can't imagine buying this in a store and getting a fit this good and liking it this much. So there I am in my new bomber jacket. And there was vintage all over the place. That's why I went down to West Magnolia. and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I also am featuring pictures from a store called Hive and Hanger. This is a vintage clothing store themed as a bee, that is honeybee type museum. I cannot recommend Hive and Hanger enough. It has a fascinating museum about bees. I got totally absorbed in it, and I ended up videotaping for the owner a bit about PTSD and the ways we soothe the amygdala, including, as she points out, the humming of an active hive of bees. Please go see this place. I cannot tell you how wonderful this was. Meanwhile, I have not done a darn thing on the back episodes. I apologize. Put a lid on it, not this week, but that gets me down to the blather. Well, as you can tell, on Saturday, I thought I didn't have enough time. Saturday morning, everything I touched kind of blew up in my face. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I told myself a few months ago I'd do. I'm going to go back to West Magnolia Village in Burbank. This is where Chance Vintage Clothing is, and if you do nothing else, please go see Chance. So what I did, I took the train to Burbank, and then I walked, and it's about half a mile. I walked westward on Olive to Lake, north on Lake to Magnolia. And then I caught the 94 bus down because it's a mile or two to where I wanted to get to. And I caught the bus down to Hollywood and Magnolia. Got off there across from Chance and said, this is great, but I'm going to have some lunch first. I walked down about 3/4 of a block. There was a nice poke bowl place, but it was not sit down. So I went next door to New Deal. New Deal, very pleasant American kind of menu, kind of homey. Very nice food, very good prices, incredibly good service. A storefront friendly, everything you want this kind of storefront cafe to be. I had a delightful Cobb salad, and the wait staff were just superb. It was friendly and it was warm, and that was the theme of the day. It was a beautiful autumn afternoon to be strolling in a neighborhood that is full of vintage shops and adorable cafes and coffee houses. I'm just telling you. I can't say enough good things. So I went into Chance. I bought my bomber jacket. I was so happy to have a bomber jacket again. Very careful not to lose it on the train this time. Okay. I wore the bomber jacket. It was hot, but I still wore it. I just said, okay. Then I walked in, and you just can't believe the variety of shops. First of all, I walked across the street, and there was Hive and Hanger. Hive and Hanger? Hanger and Hive. Wait a minute. Hive and Hanger. And I went through that bee museum. I read everything. It was beautifully presented. The vintage stuff, not so much, but I was surprised. The owner came over and wanted to talk to me because I was clearly reading her exhibits. It was a privilege to talk to her. She has a lepidopterist certification from UC Berkeley. She was fascinating. And we had a good time talking, and then she said, can I videotape you for the exhibit talking about PTSD? So I did. We'll see how that goes. I did give her my name. I have no problem with having my professional name on this. Okay, then I'm thinking, well, that was great. I'm going to miss my train. I'll take the next train. The next thing down the road, and I don't have the name of it, and it's killing me. There is a shop that is a little museum of art and forestry. And you can see pictures of it underneath the word blather. There's a line of text, and you'll see 2 pictures from it. I don't even know how to describe this place. The owners made it as a memorial. This couple owns it, and they made it as a memorial to their mothers who have died, both of whom were artists. And they took care of their dying mothers, and they really grieved the fact that as their mothers were dying, they could not do their art, and they could not do the other thing they loved, which was hiking and being in nature. So these people built this little museum, and it's just like you're inside the woods in a very deep, dense, wet sort of woodland, like a woodland in Britain or the northeast of the U.S. And all over the walls, there are signs that say, move me, or lift this, whatever. And there's little tiny handles. You do have to look. And when you do this, you will find inside little displays of mushrooms and elves and adorable little tea sets. And it's just hard to describe it. It's very eclectic. It's very, very beautiful. All through it, there are little love seats and sofas. They say, please feel free to sit down and create in our space. They take donations. They do sell a few things. I don't know how they're keeping this thing afloat. It was so wonderful. And you can see my favorite thing was listen to the plant talk through music. They put electrodes on the leaves of this plant, and it just plays whatever the electrodes are picking up. It transfers it through a synthesizer. You can hold the leaf and it will play your energy. And it played mine. I believe I have a tape of it, but I haven't figured out how to transfer it. I will try to do that. Just amazing place. I had a great time talking to one of the owners, talking about what a beautiful tribute this was to their mothers. He got very tearful and said, we believe they're here with us. And then I had this kind of mental breakthrough where I said, of course they are. And he looked surprised. And I said, well, you believe they went to heaven, right? If there's a heaven. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, if I died, this would be heaven for me. If you were my son and you made this memorial to me, where would be a better place to be? I mean, that would be heaven, to be with you and to see this beautiful act of love. I thought the guy was going to cry on me. But I think it's very true, actually. Anyway, if you look through the pictures, you will see this insanely beautiful set of a display, really. I can't think what display, I can't remember the names of the things. Anyway, one shop sold beautiful scents and candles, and they had this lovely display of just mismatched teacups and saucers. And there is the display. I just love that. I always wanted to set up something like that in my home. I've never gotten to do it. This is not the time to do it. I'm enjoying theirs. And there's also a picture of Mindful Nest. I'm pretty sure the people running this are Wiccans. You just have to go see it to believe it. They had all these beautiful signs about peace and basically saying, no ice in here, we know our rights. I just really was moved by it. What I would tell you, if you're going to do this, when you go, I did it the right way. You start at around Hollywood. Maybe you could go one block to the west, but I didn't see anything past Chance. And you just go eastward, and you walk, you stroll, and you look in all the shops. There were so many. They were so wonderful. And they are the shops you wanted to shop in. Everybody talks to you. Everybody's friendly. Everybody has a good sense of humor. It was just a delightful stroll. I bought candles, and I bought the bomber jacket, and I bought I bought hair clips that look like cats, and I bought my little headpiece that looks like a black cat with a little witch's hat on it. I just had so much fun. I cannot recommend it enough. And of course, you can still see our LGBTQIA plus lifeline information, because remember, mature humans don't harm people who are different than they are. And we don't let them suicide. We try to help them and take care of them. We don't have to agree with them to treat them with basic human dignity and respect. And that also goes for the information I give about reporting where ICE is, using the ICE Block app, and using the USC Law School Student Service to protect immigrants trying to go legally to court. In the meantime, you can see the calendar of events in the Santa Clarita Valley that are yarny that I know of. And my upcoming calendar, I am pretty happy about that, I have to say. Minerva's going to get the last word, and Minerva wants you to know about Catnip Coalition, which is indeed in West Magnolia Village. And you can see its front sign. And you can also see the sign they had in the doorway, which I thought was charming. It says, 2 cats inside. Please watch the door. They are indoor cats only, no matter what they tell you. And right next to that were display windows loaded with cat trees where they had cats they are fostering. And then you can see below it, there's a picture of the resident tomcat. That guy owns the place. He does not pay attention to any of the customers. He looks neither to the right nor the left as he walks down the central aisle. But he delighted me by jumping straight up in the air onto that ramp you see that he is standing on in the picture. The whole top of the shop, above the display shelves, is a giant cat pathway. It's got places for the cats to run and climb and little houses for them. Finally, Minerva wants you to see these because she thinks this is fabulous, a whole store dedicated to supporting stray cats and rehoming cats. And of course, in the midst of all this, on the bottom right of those 4 pictures, you can see Captain on my bed, pretending she is a cat. Minerva would like you to be clear that just because she is on my bed, that is the human's bed, she is not a cat. So Minerva wants you to know about a charitable store in West Magnolia called Catnip Coalition that sells vintage stuff and cat goodies. And she also wants you to be clear that that thing on the bed is not a cat. Finally, Minerva, because she's a homey sort, wants you to see the wheels I am bringing to CFR. It is a Schacht portable and an Ashford portable. They are coming, they have bobbins, they have all their equipment as far as I know. So that would be fine. I have not tried to spin them. They may be able, I can't tell if they've got drive bands on them. They're out in my living room right now waiting to go. But Minerva would like you to know about those too, because Minerva realizes that she is going to be lonely this weekend while I go hang with the rest of my community at CFR. And remember, we are a community. When we take care of the good of the community, we are protecting the rights of the individual. Having said all that, everybody stay safe, take care of each other. Forgive me for the editing on this episode because I'm going to mount this as fast as I can. And I will talk to you soon. And to all my yarn sibs coming to CFR 11, oh baby, we're so close. I can't wait to see you all. See you all soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.